What's up, boys? This season's Fathers of the Future podcast is brought to you by ScottsdalePodcast.com. It's the studio that I'm in right now. Here's the deal. If you have a story, if you have a mission, if you have an interview, if you have something deep and meaningful in your heart that you need to share, that you need to get out, that you need to promote, that you need to fundraise, that you need to build, let ScottsdalePodcast.com be the place that you can come. This week's Fathers of the Future podcast is brought to you by The Crucible, the ultimate transformation between a boy and a man. This 30-hour immersive experience is designed to take you to, through, and past your personal edge of comfort. Here in Scottsdale, Arizona, schedule the call, step into the unknown, and do something that will transform and change your entire life. Welcome to the Fathers of the Future podcast. My name is Luke Kayam, and I am joined by a friend and somebody I have massive respect and hold value to and for, Mike Kesner.
Great to be here. Thanks, Luke.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about this for a few years. And before we get into Mike, I have to set the frame and the tone for how we met. And being an opportunist, being an entrepreneur, being somebody who, when he hears or sees opportunity knocking, continues to pound on, if not kick that door down. And so Mike and I were introduced by a mutual friend, a client, a dad on a soccer team of my daughter's, going back to 2018-19, pre-COVID. And the introduction was made, and I'm not quite sure why at that time, but you were working on improving your health, your mindset, your practice, your training. And we did a lot of early breath work, meditation, visualization, at the same time that you started to get physically fit while also launching a company.
Correct.
And so we got through COVID, and after that, we actually hadn't met. We were doing all of these coaching calls via phone or Zoom at the time because of COVID and in and out of that. And then you came out to Scottsdale with your team, and I had the opportunity to deliver a keynote. And for the past 4 years, I've been working with one of your companies and the team that you've created, the starting lineup of that team, as you use such great sport analogies and metaphors. But you've become one of not only my top trusted resources in life and somebody I know I can talk to about things, and vice versa. You do such a great job of always opening the dialogue with connection. And as we talk about this and we infuse communication, culture, the ability to serve, to teach, to coach in my business, but also in business as it reflects a lot of our listeners, you do such a great job of that to begin before we get to the work.
Right.
And so in this 4 years, I've worked with about 10 of your employees, of your team, of your partners, and we've stayed connected in that time period. And so just super grateful to have you here, to have you on the show. Is unlike a lot of our guests, you're not in my day-to-day life, right? We talk 3 to 4 times a year. We probably see each other once a year. But when we do, there's a mutual trust. There's the ability to connect right away. And then ultimately, you hired me to help a lot of your men.
Correct.
Working all with men, high stress, high anxiety, high pressure, some of them family men with young kids. I've said it to them and I've said it to you, but I want to say it to the world. You helped save a lot of these men's lives.
I appreciate it. And just to backtrack, 2 interesting points. One, I'll never forget, early Zoom call COVID, I had no clue how to turn on the camera. Now I remember struggling, I wanted to learn how to meditate. That's why that was our original connection. Yeah. And you helped me with the meditation, and you encouraged me just to get back to doing push-ups as well. So some fitness things in addition. Yeah. And then the other thing, so that's interesting. I figured out now I've become proficient at Teams calls and Zoom calls, obviously. Yeah. The other thing is I think podcasts have hit their bubble, as my wife said today. because I'm on a podcast, which it's only happened on rare occasions.
That's good.
So scared that the podcast bubble has happened
Yeah.
if I'm on a short list as a guest. But I appreciate being here, and I think the number one thing that two things that connect us, I feel, your energy is unreal. So I think energy is almost undervalued in general, but it's not just your energy, your authenticity. A lot of people, especially kind of in your industry, are kind of BS artists, my industry too. But so you have the energy and then you back it up with authenticity. So I appreciate our relationship.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. I got to have dinner with your amazing wife and my wife the other night, and it was great to just break ground at a different level. And so let's unpack a little bit about, sort of your career being in the insurance industry, and you're in this fun employed state right now, which we can joke and laugh about.
Right.
But also you've served a very long, illustrious career in that. And when we go back to just a moment ago of like building teams and this idea around a starting lineup, you were a startup and you grew significantly, 400 or 500% over a couple years. And in that process, again, working and coaching men, the majority of any and all listeners are going to be coming from the masculine, from the men, from the business operator, the driver, the producer. And when you infuse that or light that fuse with unhealthy habits, you tend to get not as great of a player, especially a long career of that player. And aside from a few little attrition guys who weren't necessarily permanent, the starting lineup remained for 4 or 5 years. And again, giving you the credit in this as the guide. A lot of these guys had not worked with a coach or somebody to help their personal and professional development mesh.
Right.
And so we were able to do that. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from, I've always, since I was 3 years old, we used to sit at the top of the Chicago Stadium. My dad would, go up 4 flights of stairs, and it'd be smoky back then because you'd smoke at hockey games or sporting events. And I saw the joy of people being like teammates. I don't know. I just remember like pass, Bobby Hull, Stan Mikita, goal, and then mobbing each other. So I've always had the desire, and I feel like at my core I'm a really, really good teammate. So I think that's it. And then I don't know how, but I've always been blessed with a lot of self-confidence, hopefully not, cockiness. And I think if you have self-confidence, I realize like I'm 25, 30 years older than some of my guys that are working with me. And while I connect well with them, it's really smart for them to be able to talk to someone who's more of a professional in personal and professional development. So I just kind of recognize that. And I kind of had an inkling that 1 or 2 of them might have had some other issues that you would be a little bit better equipped to help them with. So, I think that's where it is born from.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And you're obviously seeing it a lot more now in society, culture, and in the professional world, right? There are coaches being brought in all the time to not just consult, but to coach up and work with employees and teams and say a lot of what leadership is already saying, but say it differently.
Right.
And that's also allowed you to stay very relevant, and not just in the industry or the marketplace, but in life. Like, I won't repeat your age, but you're a couple years older and seasoned, and you're a veteran in this league, in this game called life. But in that, you are doing a lot of things. And like you just said on the precast, like you haven't felt this good since 20s. So,
maybe 18, 19.
Yeah. So let's start there in terms of what you're currently doing to optimize your health and your performance, and not just stay relevant, but stay fit, stay clear-headed, and optimize your body and your health as you move into later years and other decades.
Totally fair. So I was telling you, I don't think I've felt this good since I was 18, maybe 19. So my dad dropped of a heart attack at 19. I was 19 years old. And I was, college athlete, fit, happy. Life was great. That was, I kind of was born on third base. Pretty well-to-do family, raised right, good mom, good dad, and I got it. I understood it. So I handled his death very well, I think, compared to most. And I probably drank a little bit more my last few years in college. I definitely had a little anger. But then just all of a sudden, you gain a few pounds after college. Then all of a sudden you have kids. I used to chew tobacco. I miss it to this day, but I don't think I've had any in 20 years. So that would be a little heartburny. And I had hip replacement surgery a year and a half ago. And I remember laying there in bed saying, all right, this is kind of the message. This is kind of the sign. I can either man up and get in really, really good shape, or I could be like some other people I know that have knee replacement, hip replacement, and they just, it's a Band-Aid until their next replacement. So I got out of there. My doctor of physical therapy was working on my hip, and he happened to be like 6'2", 235 pounds. Just a slightly bigger version of you, really. He reminds me of you, Chris Dickerson. I go, dude, like, could you train me with some sort of, I need to get strong. So if I fall down, I could break my fall, like
Functional. Yeah.
And then just my only goal the last year and a half is, this is one of your calling cards, is show up. Like I've never canceled on them. So
that's great.
Never. That's been my only goal. So it's 3 days a week. Sometimes it's 2 if I'm out of town or if he's out of town. And it's an hour of actual, mostly, compound movements, barbell. And
you're lifting.
I'm lifting.
Yeah.
Not crazy heavy, but
Yeah.
I haven't, I'm not worried. I used to cross the bridge. We live in downtown Austin. And 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would cross that bridge with my wife. And sometimes I'd get that weird thought, like, I'm not sure I could take care of myself and not, handle myself like I used to if this guy walking towards me starts up. That was kind of a shitty feeling. And now I'm 62 years old.
Yay.
I'm not going to win every battle, but at least when I walk across that bridge, I feel I could at least, go a few rounds and probably win more than I lose. And it's a good feeling.
Yeah. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm better than most. So let's keep that going. Well, that's massively and vital and important, obviously, for longevity, but also for equipping you with handling and just feeling confident in your body, in your skin, in your performance, because you're putting in those sets and reps, because you're showing up and doing the work.
Right.
And so you hadn't done that for a few years, or maybe you haven't lifted like this ever, but you also, your wife is vegetarian. And so when I met you, you were vegetarian and you started lifting, and no need to debate right, wrong, or indifferent, right? Everybody has their own choice, but you started to supplement with animal protein. I think that's a great segue into the nutrition or food as fuel for so many people, because you don't just eat any and all meats, but you also aren't practicing vegetarianism or being a vegan right now either.
I'm probably 70% plant-based. Like, my wife is 100%.
Yeah.
She's also an amazing cook. So, she'll make rice with the greatest vegetables and tofu, which provides a lot of protein.
Yeah.
So probably 70% plant-based, but I'm definitely having fish and beef, more than I have over the last few years. And, again, I haven't felt this good forever. I'm taking the Cree, the young guys that I work with, they love it. Whey protein and Cree, and my son does some of that as well. So, it's.
Yeah, I slip the creatine in my daughter's water. I tell her, but I definitely do that every time I fill her water bottle. The science is out, not only for your body. So creatine came out when I was like 19. 1998 is when it really went, viral, which didn't exist back then, right? And I've cycled on and off of it for years. I've probably been committing to taking it now for about 5 years. 5 grams pre-workout, 5 grams post-workout, 5 grams before bed, which is the new one that you're doing, right?
No,
you're not doing before bed.
No, I have to take old people medicine before bed, so I'm just trying to remember that stuff.
All right. So there are a few people I know, and when I remember it, I'm installing that, but it's about 10 grams per day of pure creatine monohydrate. which also is now showing studies that it's improving brain functionality.
Greatly.
Right?
Yeah, greatly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to preach to my buddies, that I grew up with, that I could see may or may not be slipping a bit to without preaching too much, like, all right, the barbell is your friend.
Yeah.
Or at least working out, push-ups,
Yeah.
something. And then creatine, for the point that you just mentioned, I'm pretty sure it helps with the mind,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Have you started to explore intermittent or fasting on top of what you're doing?
A little bit. I've had many ideas throughout my days, and my kids laugh at me. Ideas are nothing if you don't execute on them. And one of them is like, years ago I said, why doesn't someone have like a 10-4 diet? 10-4, good buddy. Like, you should only eat a little bit. You should eat at 10 and 4 every day.
Yeah.
And this is like years ago. I haven't done anything about it.
Yeah.
So I try and do that, but I am not disciplined to any degree. I do some fasting, but not a ton.
Yeah, so we'll put that into the calendar for next year as well as we get closer to 26, right? Some goals and targets. One of your goals and targets is to hit a PR on your 3 main lifts, your bench press, your back squat, and your deadlift. What is that number?
Currently it's 750,
Yeah.
which isn't a ton, but my ultimate goal is not to get hurt. I'm not looking to win any competitions, and credit to my trainer. It's slow, progressive overload.
Yep.
So, but I do I'm competitive, like you're competitive, like I have a fire inside me.
Yeah.
So I'd like to accomplish that at some point in 2026.
Yeah, to get it up at some point, not necessarily a number to hit, but to just keep improving it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so those foundational lifts are so vital, even in all the CrossFit or functional fitness, high intensity, the HIIT workouts, the F45, the Orange Theories, all of those, they miss strict barbell strength work. And the best and strongest athletes tend to know how to wield a barbell really well.
Yeah.
I had 2 fighters in my house today training. One's a boxer, one's an MMA guy. And we started out with basic Olympic lifting, deadlift, clean, press. And you see these machines of health and fitness almost be humbled immediately because they don't have the skill to move that barbell.
Huh.
And we taught that a lot in our gyms, right? The ability to learn the Olympic lifts will help make you stronger. You get more bang for your buck in those lifts than, a single isometric kind of lift.
Right. I'm embarrassed. I'm a huge sports fan, and weight training to me is, it's part of sports. I didn't know much about it. I'm embarrassed. And then so weight training, I didn't know much about. Now I watch documentaries on West Side Barbell. I listen to Ripito.
Yeah.
I'm not addicted, but I watch a lot of videos, and it's pretty cool. And then the other sport I knew nothing about is drag racing. And I marry a young lady whose dad and brother, they're like, he's still drag racing her father. He's like 81 years old.
Wow.
So it's weird sometimes. But
yeah. So tell me a little bit about that background in your family and the small town outside of Illinois or inside of Illinois, outside of Chicago that you're from.
So I'm from Highland Park, Illinois. So about 20 miles north of Chicago. And, was blessed, grew up good family. I had a goofy brother, so everyone's got something. So I think my first memory, unfortunately, was my brother gathering all the neighborhood kids, telling them that we were about to go out on our boat, and then we're gonna go on our private plane like the next week. And I remember vividly standing there. We don't have a boat, and we certainly don't have a plane. I was like 5, so that was like one of my first vivid memories. And side story, not that it matters, but my mom couldn't get pregnant, tried for 6 years. They adopted my brother. On the way home from the hospital, they had to pull over the side of the road. She was puking. I came along, and
Back to back.
yeah, and he was raised great. It was just, whatever. Unfortunately, he just was a really good bullshit artist, and he ended up spending 10 of his last 12 years in prison for, just make stuff up. He was a con artist. So, probably part of the reason, my number one tenet in life, and if you're going to be a business partner of mine long term or a friend, is it's not intelligence, it's integrity. And So I witnessed how when you don't have integrity, how that could take you down the wrong path.
Wow. That's
So, yeah,
that's something I didn't know about you. And in that, born versus bred, how old was he when he was adopted?
3 or 4 weeks, I think. So
Okay.
we're 9.5, 10
Yeah.
months apart.
Yeah. So he was born with that. He wasn't bred with it.
He was not
Yeah.
bred. Yeah, he had to have been born. I mean, my parents had him with shrinks when he was like 5, 6, 7 years old. He was a nice kid.
Yeah.
He wasn't like violent or anything, but
Yeah.
he was the kid who could walk into a car dealership, and he did this and walk out. Oh, you know who my grandpa is? You know who my dad is? He could walk out with a Porsche. He had no money.
Wow.
And so yeah, he was a lot of headache and heartache for my mom and dad. I was busy playing sports and chasing girls, so it really
Yeah. And did that shape much of your decision making? The more you saw that, it made you be a little bit more clear and not so, I won't say creative. I'll say more in the of not being factual, right? Almost imaginary in a lot of the things. Like
probably. I think. Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough. Grew up next to my mom was a twin, and her twin sister grew up in the house next to us. So my cousins were a couple years older. One was a year younger. Another, Ellen, who was like 4 years older. So it's kind of tight family, even though first cousins. But it influenced me for sure. I was also lucky enough. I had my dad for 19 years, but I saw that man get up. It was pitch dark. I remember he'd get dressed up for work and he'd leave when it was pitch dark. 2 or 3 nights a week he'd come home and he would go back to the office and work. So
that grit work ethic comes from him.
That grit work ethic, I think the fire in my belly used to be in sports, then business, and most importantly, family. So I have that fire to be successful in all of those. So that for sure comes from him. And then I better give a shout out to my mom. She passed away when I was in my 30s. She was like the greatest listener. So I think, that was probably born, not bred also. I think I was born and bred. I'm a pretty good listener, really good listener. She had the ability, actually, Luke, which is weird, like she could be at a dinner table at a restaurant and she would know not only what's going on at our table, but the table behind her and the table behind her. Somehow she was listening to that, which I never understood why she was interested, but whatever.
Yeah. So your parents, you lose them both by 30.
Yeah, my mom, I think I was like 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that have any effect on ultimately who you became after that? And does it at all affect your professional life in insurance?
I think I just, even when my dad died when I was 19, I felt like I had 19 years with like one of the best fathers in the world. So I didn't feel sorry for myself. I thought of, I'd see other friends or acquaintances and see the struggles they were going on and with both parents alive. So I never really felt sorry for myself. And then, no, I would say I looked at it all as positive. And then, the big positive also was just pure luck of meeting my wife when we were in our early 20s working in St. Louis, just kind of running around together and getting to know her family. And my wife used to run a bunch of retail stores and talk about grit. I mean, that girl worked her tail off. I thought I'd be retired by 35 because she was so smart and such a hustler. And then I convinced her to have kids, and then she wasn't that interested in work anymore. So then I had to strap it on and really work hard.
Yeah. So you've had a career in insurance. How did that begin? And ultimately, what would you say are like 3 key takeaways from that industry, maybe even your own secret sauce or superpowers in that illustrious career?
So my partner, John, who spends a lot of time here in Arizona, we're self-anointed insurance Hall of Famers. So thank you. I don't know if anyone else would vote for us. So was living in St. Louis after college. My mom she'd been a widow for 2 or 3 years. So I kind of had a guilt, and my brother was goofy. I felt like I should probably get back to Chicago to just be near her. So I just talked to one of my buddy's fathers, just, hey, I'm going to come back to Chicago. Do you know anyone? At the time I was a sales rep for Isotoner. They used to sell gloves and slippers to the malls.
Wow.
which was a great job because I sat around my apartment and just chewed Copenhagen all day and answered a few phone calls. So it was a good first job. So I talked to my buddy's father, and 2 weeks later, I was selling life insurance. I believed in life insurance because I remember when my dad passed away, he had just recently bought additional life insurance, and I saw that it was, very much appreciated by my mom, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I survived the first 3 or 4 years. If I didn't win the office football pool, I sometimes had to borrow some money from my mom, and then got married. The fire started burning. Okay, I want to be really successful. And I would say, to your point about secret sauce, I'd say unique ability to pick the right partner. So I was naturally really good at setting up meetings with high quality people that had the ability to purchase insurance. And I just knew which teammate to bring with, who wouldn't be offensive, who wouldn't be salesy. So I would say that was really important. That would be a unique ability of listening, because anytime someone's going to buy from you, the more you listen, the more they tend to like you, the more they get to talk. So I would say ability to bring the right person in the room, the ability to listen, and the ability to just always do what was in the best interest of the client, which unfortunately that's not the way our world is wired. I mean, I recently have seen some.
Yeah, and not just in the insurance industry, in most industries, right?
Correct.
You're seeing not just a lack of customer service, but customer experience.
Correct.
And everything being so automated, there's no personal touch, which is why one of the resources I've shared with you and share with my network, Hug Your Customers by Jack Mitchell, talks about the investment in what I call human capital, and knowing, your wife, your son, your daughter, your dog's name, where you went to school, where you grew up.
Right.
And the more you know that, not just to leverage it into business opportunities, but to use it to connect, knowing that the human reward system not only appreciates it as somebody who gives, but also receives connection.
Right.
It makes you better. And not just better at being a salesman or an operator, but it makes you a better human being.
For sure. And speaking of hugging, another book I like is Getting Naked. I forget the author. He's a famous author. It just talks about asking the right questions, getting vulnerable with your client. But speaking of hugging, Fathers of the Future, what's the take on physical hugging your kids? Like, what do you think? I'd be curious what you think, and then I have an opinion.
Yeah, so I've always been a healthy touch guy. There's a kid I had middle school with named Johnny Ochoa who used to hug girls before every class, and I couldn't stand him. It's now in the universe forever, but I didn't like it because it didn't seem authentic, right? So it's got to be authentic. It's got to be genuine. And I always found a way to connect through human touch in my personal training or fitness journey, because I realized that gave me a greater connection to the person. It was a high five. It was a handshake. It was a touch. It was maybe a hand on the back on your low or high row.
Yep.
But it showed, hey, I got you, and you can trust me. So it's kind of a mutual thing, right? So I still tend to do that as much as possible. Growing up in Hawaii, the connection is not just a high five, but the high five, embrace, hug. And if it's a mom or an auntie or a woman, it's to kiss always on the cheek.
Okay.
Right? Whereas in Europe or other countries around the world, it's double cheek, or in the Middle East or Lebanon, where my family's from, double cheek kiss. This is more of an embrace, but you're crossing the bridge from disconnected to more connected. And again, it has to be very, a trustworthy way to do that. Right. Small doses in the beginning. Little kids that I work with over time, I've realized they don't want to touch, but if you can get down on a knee and meet them at their height and level and get a fist pump, that is the equivalent of a hug.
Right.
As far as kids go, I steal a hug from my daughter as much as I can, which is about 1 to 3 seconds a day. That's about all I get now. Whereas when she was a young little girl, I'd pick her up, I'd embrace her, hug. My son is a little bit more accepting, and I know you just said you had a chance to listen to or review the podcast I did.
Yeah, Cannon's a stud.
Yeah, with Cannon Kime. If you haven't, go back and watch that one. It's great. Teaches me a lot about emotional intelligence and being cool and not, flipping out or freaking out or letting my emotions go. But I tend to connect physical touch with him a little bit more. I'll give him a squeeze on his neck, his arm, his shoulder. I'll give him a hug. And I think I know it's extremely important and valuable. So much so that I'm actually going to put this clip in. There's an Instagram video that I just watched today he's either a doctor or a nurse or a nurse, but he talked about the psychology and emotional connection of hugging.
Did you know we need 8 hugs a day for maintenance? We need 4 hugs a day for survival. We need 12 hugs a day for growth. Hugs are important for a lot of reasons. They strengthen your immune system. They increase your feelings of safety and belonging. They boost the hormone oxytocin, which heals feelings of loneliness, isolation, and anger. So please hug your kids, hug your spouse, hug your parents. You can even hug your pets.
Human beings need a minimum of 6 hugs a day for connection, for love. They need 10 to 12 to heal or to help solve a problem, and they need 14 plus. And my math is a little off. We'll put him in, but 14 for growth. And you can even hug your animals is like his closing statement, right?
Right. So, to me, there's a massive shortage. Just thinking about family. Yeah. I think it's mostly us dudes like, oh, I can't hug my son or I can't kiss my daughter. It's like, I think it's very unhealthy. I think back, my dad used to hug. I remember some of my memories would be listening to radio back then, Hawks games or whatever sporting event. And we hugged a lot. My mom wasn't as affectionate, but she was an excellent mom. And then I didn't hug anyone unless it was like playing sports. Yeah. I loved playing sports, I think. Just the hugging teammates when you'd win. And then the world's greatest hugger is my wife. Luckily, obviously we have a great relationship, but it's been a core value with raising our kids. For me, wow. To this day, if my son walked in here, I'd embarrass the shit out of him. Yeah. I mean, I'd be I'd be hugging him, kissing him. Yeah. Same with my daughter. And it's an area, I think, in our country that especially dads need to be better. That's like to our discussion, like dudes need to just man up. Yeah. It's like your spouses want to feel safe, protected, but part of being a guy is to be vulnerable, I think, and you could be compassionate. You can be a nerdy hugging father on occasion. Yeah, absolutely. If we're changing the way that our dads, and it sounds like your dad was a lot of what you've now become as a father, right, in terms of affection and touch. Because, the reality is there's a lot of men I coach who had 0 relationship with a father or had 0 affection from that father. And the other one that I get a lot of is that my dad was great. He was always there. He just really wasn't present in what he was doing. He was availably around, but he wasn't present. And, if there's an emotional hug, it's that one, right? To be invested in what your kids are doing. Right. That pays dividends in the long run. Right. I remember my daughter getting mad that I didn't remember one of her 27 friends. And I realized number one, she has a lot of friends. Number two, I didn't care enough at that time because I didn't realize how much she cared about it. Interesting. And so that became a shift then where her Subway order, this is one, guys, I learned the hard way from not remembering her Subway order and not only getting it wrong, but not investing that time and energy to learn it. And so I have what I call the 4 gig memory bank. I don't have the 8 or the 16, so I have to write things down. So Subway notes, dessert notes, meal notes, just little things over time that made me a better father. My cheat sheet, my ninja code that nobody needs to know about, I get the order right. And in doing that, I not only serve, but I deliver value that she appreciates.
And a big problem that I see, not even a challenge, but a problem with a lot of men, is they don't know how to connect to their daughter. It's easier to connect with the dude. And so because of that, they leave connection to mom. So mom and daughters, if you have two kids, a son and a daughter, tends to be that unit and then this unit. Dad goes with son, mom goes with daughter, and I'm this crossover of like, I know when I'm connected to my son, so I can then give more energy to my daughter. And that comes through this awareness of balance, right? Of like, okay, who do I need to invest time in now? What happens if you have 3 kids or 4 kids?
Right.
Right. And how do you do that? There's independent time that we all need to spend with that important person in our life. Kids, family, parents, whatever it is. And it can't just be collective. It's really easy when you have a family. Hey, we're going on this trip.
Right.
We're doing this thing.
Right.
But I've learned to now really invest that one-on-one with each of those people. My wife, my son, and my daughter.
It's great. I mean, it wasn't planned, but one thing now that you mention it. So I think it's weird how a lot of people can't connect with people, so I'm 62. A lot of my friends and colleagues can't really connect with 20s and 30s and 30-year-olds, which I don't know, maybe because I'm immature still in certain ways. I feel like I'm that age, but I've noticed that. I don't know the answer for that. And then the other thing you just mentioned, alone time with your kids or one-on-one. Mm-hmm. We accidentally just started creating memories. Like I used to take my son on reading trips every couple of years. We'd just go to wherever, different city, and spend a day or two. He loved reading, and so do I. My daughter and I went on a few trips, just daddy-daughter, son and myself, and just those little things. And I'm sure you've done stuff like that, even if it's just locally. Other things I did just instinctively, probably lucky, pretty high EQ. IQ, my wife would say, is below average. But just naturally, like I used to like write on their mirror every once in a while. Just silly stuff like Happy Friday, or let's go kick tail today, or something, irritating or gross or whatever. But just little things that I don't think most people do, because they're just, unfortunately, I think most people are thinking about.
Yeah. Or not thinking about that other person or anyone at all. So maybe it's not always just thinking about themselves. It's the lack of awareness too. Case in point, you are on the receiving end of a lot of the content, information, motivation that I send out. And I send out the guys probably 2 or even 3 more times, stuff. Listen to this, watch this, do this. Positive affirmation, motivation, inspiration, education. About 2 years ago, I realized that I was giving it to everyone in the world but my own kids. And so I've made that subtle shift where if I'm going to put in the energy and time to send something to your text message that I believe is valuable,
right,
or going to help you or improve your day or help you wake up or feel better, then I better do that to my own 2 kids. And I've said this a lot more lately. Those are the 2 most important clients that I'll ever have.
For sure.
And when you serve them in that way, it's massively rewarding because they're getting the gold, right? And you can't just give the gold to your clients or to your business or your customers. You got to give it to those people.
Right. It's your legacy.
It's your legacy. Hey, there we go. Key word.
It's your legacy. And even if they don't show it, it's sinking through. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I could tell your kids are rock stars. It's fun to see. And, you can just see they walk with confidence. I mean, your son had the courage to step away from potentially playing 1, if not 2 sports, or had a choice of 2 sports. Your daughter's, has the courage to be pretty darn religious compared to most 17-year-old girls, and athlete. So that doesn't just happen. So kudos to you and your wife.
Well, thank you. It's a work in progress, and I would say this to not only them, but to anybody out there. You have to keep investing and meet your kids wherever they are at every stage of their life. I went through a discomfort, disruption, just, I would say, shift in the pattern I was used to, which was when my son became a freshman and my daughter, became a 8th grader. that 12 to 14, where I wasn't the king anymore. I wasn't, the awesome guy that they wanted to spend time with. And although we still do, instead of getting upset, which I kind of did, and I didn't know how to respond and handle it, I just shifted me, which is all we can do, right? And so now you have older kids. One has a startup, and I want to spend a couple minutes in what we call shameless self-promotion with both your son and your daughter.
Okay.
Your daughter is amazing. Barry Kesner, real estate agent broker in Chicago, in Highland Park, in
Lincoln Park. Barry, she's married, Barry Mill. So her husband Ken, who's a great guy.
Yeah.
So Barry Mill, she's in Lincoln Park. They've been married for 3 years. She works for Dawn McKenna Group. It's, I think, top 5 or 6 teams in the country. So Lincoln Park, suburbs in Chicago, Naples, Salt Lake. They're just amazing. And she personally has done like $50 million in sales this year. She just turned 30.
Crushing it.
Which is, she's not just a housewife flinging an occasional house. Yeah. She's a grinder, and it's been fun to see. So, that's her deal. Her husband's Ken, private equity guy. Kudos to him. He just got into the golf club of his dreams, Chicago Golf, or if you know, you know. And they own 3 companies, so she's begging him every day to maybe transact on one, so they could move into a nicer place, even though their place is great.
Yeah.
So that's fun. And then my son is...
This is brilliant, by the way. So please share that company and the ideology behind it.
So, I will. Yeah. So Jesse is, I never thought he'd be a true entrepreneur. He has great EQ. He actually has high IQ, unlike myself. He's at Harvard in his second year getting his MBA. And 6 months ago, lo and behold, he says, Daddy, Mommy, I think I'm going to do a startup. I go, well, you're not really an entrepreneur. You're in school. I don't believe it's like an easy academic institution. Last I checked, he started an AI coaching app called All New Health, and it's for people that are on all the GLPs. So that's just gaining in popularity, all the Ozempics, people that are on Ozempic and all that stuff. It's not just for housewives who want to lose 15 pounds. It's for millions and millions of people who need it. And it's just giving them shortcuts by going to the app like, oh, you mean I need to not go to McDonald's and get a chicken sandwich? I actually should go make myself a turkey sandwich and have some carrots. It's more than just a shot. Oh, I should introduce myself to a barbell. Oh, I have side effects of constipation or, worse than constipation, the opposite. Here's things I could do. And it's all on his app. He's got a great partner. One of our cousins introduced him to his partner, Max. And it's been fun to witness.
It's a support system and a community.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's digitized. Yeah,
correct.
Awesome.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's been fun to witness as well.
Yeah. So in this next phase for you, knowing you've done all that you can in, the upbringing of your kids, right? It's like, how does a man know he's made it? Well, he looks at his kids and knows that they're in a great place. You don't have to worry or have that kind of fear or scarcity or just any threats to that person growing into who you know that they are, right? They're not in their own way, right? And then they can flourish. And so they're in this flourishing stage. You're in a different season, right? And so give us a little of what you're working and focusing on in this new sort of part of your life.
So I think it might be the final hill, but I plan on it taking like 30 years or more to conquer, to get to that summit, so to speak. So still sitting on the board of insurance brokerage company. Probably my wife and I are going to do some investments, family office, but we're like typical family office is worth, they're worth gazillions. We're not worth gazillions, but want to do some investments into 3 or 4 companies and just have a real impact. The other thing is was very involved in a charity, a 9/11 charity for all the first responders that ran up and down our building in Austin last year. We raised a lot of money, so I'm going to be more involved. It's called the 100 Club in Austin. Yeah. So it just provides, funding for fallen firefighters, first responders, policemen. Mm-hmm. So that, and then the newest thing is think I'm going to do TikTok. It's going to come soon. Texas Mike.
Give us a sample.
Yeah, I don't know. Texas Mike. So it might be like 30 seconds on your morning routine. Like get in the habit, be up by prior to 6. Go. For me, it's like I have my triple espresso. I read the Wall Street Journal. I meditate. And it's the greatest hour of my day, except for when I'm bugging my wife. I love it. So many folks my age, your age, or in their 20s and 30s, they just wake up and it's chaos. Like I have a former partner, his whole life was chaotic, and it still is, and it's prevented him from, he's good. But this chaotic human is good. He should have been great, and he won't ever get great because it's chaotic. It's got to just, there's thousands of people like that just don't start off their day with a real routine. So it'll be like snippets like that and a million other things.
Hall of Fame habits. That's what that is right there.
That's a good one. Hall of Fame habits. Whereas my kids would say, if you have trouble sleeping at night, they call me the Beast, just put on the Beast, put on Texas Mike, and you'll doze off in no time.
Yeah. I love the energy, the lightness. You have so many of these character traits that, as somebody who didn't necessarily have the father-like mentorship, or at least not a lot of it in my lifetime, it's amazing. And I want to just appreciate and honor you for a moment, for not just being here and being on this podcast and being a part of my coaching and consulting journey this past 4 or 5 years, but just being who you are, and always being available and knowing that, whatever we're going to talk about, it's going to lead to something better.
Right.
I don't know if we've ever wasted a minute talking or connecting, or creating an idea that didn't have positive momentum and movement forward. So I appreciate that, and I thank you for that.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah.
I even, one of my fondest memories is when you came out of retirement and you were playing some hardball for a while.
Oh,
I remember
man.
watching those batting practice. You're an athlete, which I appreciate that.
Yeah. We won't talk about that. That coming back didn't quite make it all the way, but we got out there.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's good to be curious, and it's your energy is contagious. So it's been a fun ride. Let's keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. If you got some value out of this podcast, if you love the conversation, if you want to hear more, of course, please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and review. If you want to learn more about Mike Kesner and what he's doing, not only on his TikTok, but also in his professional world, you can obviously go into his LinkedIn. And you can be anywhere in the world listening to anything. So we appreciate you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the Fathers of the Future podcast. So check out ScottsdalePodcast.com and reach out to my man Martin to build your podcast now.